So I'm David. I've been coming for, I don't know, maybe about a month or so, just getting to know your congregation and getting to know your people. And my background is I went to Western Seminary. I graduated in 2009, and I served as a youth pastor for 4.5 years. And today maybe some of my friends will come up and show up today. So, a little bit about my personality. I'm kind of an analytical guy, and sometimes there are people who have a difficult time trying to relate to me. I'll just leave it like that. There are people who have a difficult time trying to relate to me because I'm an analytical kind of a guy. And when people try to share with me their issues and their problems and stuff, sometimes I kind of go to the solution, or I say, this is what you need to do, this is the thing that you're going through, this is the problem that you face. And I'm kind of analytical that way. But you know, even though I'm kind of an analyzer, I'm trying to be sympathetic. I'm trying to be sympathetic. I'm trying to understand what someone's going through, how they're feeling, and trying to feel the same way. And then after that, okay, if I felt this way, this is what I would do. Now, I realize that sometimes people aren't always looking for what to do. So now I have to learn to shut up. Just listen. But sometimes, you know, when people are into trying to get you to do something, not just for, let's say, a problem in life, but maybe a sermon. Like, I'm trying to get you to do something. I'm trying to speak to you guys about what God's calling you guys to do. Or someone's just trying to rally up a lot of enthusiasm to get people on board, to get people aligned, to get people going in the same direction. There's part of me that stands back and says, wait, let me think about that. Does that match up with what I know of Scripture? Is that guy really speaking for God? Do I know that this guy really is telling me what I need to hear, and not just for his own agenda, what he wants me to hear, so I'll do what he wants? And I think that's the same way with hearing from God. Because when we hear from God, we want to know how God's words, when it's being spoken, how it really is God's words. The theme that we have for this year is no holding back. So it sounds like a rah-rah type of a theme. But no holding back from what? From what? So today we're going to be speaking about from what, and how you know when you are hearing from God, and how you know when God's telling you that you need to be doing something. Let's flip to the first slide. Do we have that? Okay, so the passage that we're going to be doing today is Exodus 3. Thanks. Thanks, Josh. I'm still not used to the remote control. I'm used to voice control. Yeah. Okay, Exodus 3. Meanwhile, Moses was shepherding the flocks of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire within the bush. As Moses looked, he saw that the bush was on fire, but it was not consumed. So Moses thought, I must go over and look at this remarkable sight. Why isn't the bush burning up? So, the first thing about God is that God shows himself to us. Yes, we seek him, but God shows himself to us. God appears to Moses through sight. That's the first sense that God uses to get Moses' attention. Oh look, this is a strange sight. It's a bush that's burning up, but it's not being consumed. I wonder what this is about. This is kind of strange. Let's go take a look. So Moses, seeing this strange sight, goes over to this strange sight, and in verse 4, when the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, to see, there's sight. So this is the introduction that Moses has to God. Moses sees something. God sometimes does this in your life. When he wants to get your attention, he speaks. But sometimes when he can't speak to you, what he does is he will show you. And sometimes people think of sight as if sight is the thing that we're aiming towards. We're trying to be able to see. But what God is doing is he lets us see so that he can get us to hear. it's the reverse. It's not like we hear God so we can see God. God lets us see Him so that we would hear Him. That's the progression in this text. God appears to Moses so that he can come close and hear God. And I don't know about you, but I've gone to like lounge places. Actually, one of my friends invited me to a lounge place in San Francisco, and one of the things that I thought of when I thought of a lounge was, this is going to be relaxing, because I just imagine people sitting around, lounging around, and then after that they'd be like talking, chill, and then they'd be like, oh, this is nice, you know, just to sit back and relax and talk with your friends. Sounds really relaxed evening. And they said, well, it's not a club, so don't worry, it's not going to be so loud. It's going to be okay. And so like I went to this lounge thinking, I'm going to have a couple good conversations, get to know people, it's going to be cool, it's going to be like, we're going to have this booth and stuff. I get there and it's like, wow, there's standing room only. I have to like find my way to the bar to get some kind of a drink. And then after that I go down and I sit down. And then after, when I talk to people, I have to say, hey. And then after that they say, what? This is a good party, right? It's like, what? This is a good party, right? What? You see, like sometimes sometimes our sense of hearing is not quite developed, or maybe sometimes our sense of hearing, there are other distractions going around. So when we're not quite used to hearing from God, God might repeat Himself. So in verse 4, when the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called out to him from the bush and said, Moses, Moses. Here I am, he answered. Moses, Moses. Look. What? Party's great. What? Party's great. What? So, Moses is not quite used to hearing from God. Maybe he's used to paying attention to the distractions in his life, to other things, not focusing on God. But God realizes that, and He speaks twice to call out Moses, just like He spoke to Samuel twice to get Samuel to hear Him. So sometimes, when God is not speaking, our tendency is to be, God, why aren't you speaking to me? Why don't you respond to me? Why aren't you listening to my prayers? Maybe it might be that God is speaking, but the music around you is kind of loud. And you can't quite hear God's voice because there's so many other things going on in your life. Like, I have to do all this stuff for work. I have all these things to take care of with my kids. I have all these taxes to do. You should do your taxes, of course, but I'm not saying that. But I have all these things on my plate, God. And then when you have all those things, maybe the sound of those things that you have to do drowns out God's voice. And it's not so much that God isn't speaking to you, but you have so much stuff around you. I think that's the same with us. Like sometimes God has to speak, and He has to speak again. But like Moses, God often reiterates Himself. He repeats Himself. He says, David. You know, we're not really, in the Bible, God's people are really not well known to listen to God. We actually have a history of not listening to God. We have a history of kind of going our own way, doing our own thing. If that is you, that's all right, because God is gracious, and He'll keep on trying to get your attention until He gets it, and when He gets it, then He'll speak to you. Let's take a look at the next section. I need to be aware of that it's not voice control. Okay. Do not come any closer, He said. Take off your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then He continued, I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. So, another question that we might have is, how do I know it's God? God identifies Himself from the history that we share with Him. Maybe a lot of you, when you hear about the idea of hearing from God, it kind of scares you, it makes you feel